Hi boys and girls, today we are going to be creating our robots out of cut pieces of paper. We're going to cut out shapes. So hopefully we've already talked about some of the shapes. Any of your regular shapes that you've heard, you guys are all familiar with, circles and ovals and triangles and squares and rectangles and hearts, star, diamond, octagon, which is 8-sided, pentagon, 5-sided, hexagon, that's actually 6-sided, a crescent. Any of those are good, or you can make up your own shapes for this. Mrs. Walker also has some shape tracers that you could use, and you're welcome to use those if you want to. So let's get started. You're going to have a black piece of paper, and then you're going to get to choose one color that you want to make most of your robot with. And then Mrs. Walker has a lot of little, I have a lot of little scrap paper that you can use to add like other details to your picture. But mostly we're going to do the base shapes out of just one color. So I have chosen yellow for mine this time. And any shape will do. If I want to make his head a hexagon, Mrs. Walker does have a hexagon tracer. I could trace out a hexagon for his head. Now if that's smaller than I want it to be, which it kind of is, maybe instead of using that for his head, I'll use it for something else. What if I wanted his head to be this big? Could I cut out the whole giant shape? Yep, you could. You could cut out that whole shape. I'm going to do this shape, but I'm going to cut it in half for his head. So I don't really want it to be quite that big. Did you see how I put this shape next to the edge? If I put it right in the middle, is that going to leave me much space to work with? No, I won't be able to do very many other big shapes, right? If I put my first shape right in the center of my paper. Okay, so I don't really want his head to be quite that big. I'm actually going to cut this in half. And I'm going to use half of it for his head. Now, I could turn it this way and make his head be like this. I could turn it this way. I'm going to do it like this. And I'm going to use this for the bottom part of his head. Kind of where his mouth would be. So if I put this here, well, that could even be his neck, couldn't it? Oh, I think I'm just going to cut this apart and leave a little space right here. So this is where his mouth is. And then I've got to think of a shape for his eyes. Now I could use the standard shape. I could put a circle, but I think because he's a robot, I am going to do a square. Now, do I want to make a square out of this color, or do I want to wait till I have a contrasting color? I hope you said wait. Yeah. So that I'm going to set aside, but I think I'm going to make his eyes like that. And then really the rest of this, you can just do anything you want. I'm seeing a little rectangle right here, so I'm just going to use this little rectangle. I don't even have to trace that for his neck. And then for his body, I'm actually seeing a shape here that I think I can use. If I get rid of this and this, and I get rid of this, I actually have my own little square here just from the leftover paper, and I think that would make a good torso. And then I'm going to set these pieces aside. I still have this one. I could make it a girl, couldn't I? If I wanted to make a skirt on her. I'm not sure I want to, though. I think I want to make this. Now, I could put it this way, and I don't like that. It's not really very symmetrical, is it? I think I'm going to try making a triangle here. Now, could I have traced a triangle using this one here? Yes, I could. But if you want a triangle that's this size, and the only options on here, if you look at this, I either have to make it really big and go around it, or my next biggest one is that big. So that's a lot smaller than what I wanted. I want it to be this size. There we go. Because I want it to kind of fit with this square. All right, and then for the arms, let's see. I kind of want them to be a little bit bendy, but I want to make them out of a lot of little ovals. So if you want to get a lot of something, let me get rid of this. You'll want to fold your paper in half. That'll make 2 copies. If you fold it in half again, that'll give you 4 copies of the same thing, right? Because you've got four layers of paper. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do 4 and then just cut out a couple. And I want them to be ovals. So I'm just going to do my best guess at an oval it's really like just a flattened out circle, isn't it? So there's my 4 little ovals, and I'm going to use these to create the bendy arms that I want. I'm just going to glue them on like that, and I'm going to make one of his arms coming down. Let's see, I need more, don't I? So I'm just going to... Now, what if you don't know how to make an oval? What's a little trick to making them? Do you guys remember from kindergarten, do you remember when we made our shape pumpkins and we used squares and rectangles to create circles and ovals for our pumpkin's mouth and eyes? So if you don't know how to make one of these, here's the trick. You just cut yourself out a rectangle like that, and then slowly snip off the corners. So I'm going to snip off the corners so it looks a little bit more round, right? And then once you have it looking kind of round, but with little corners, you're going to get rid of those other little corners just by cutting a little bit smaller snips. Just get rid of those little teeny tiny corners. No, I'm not cutting too deep now because I want to just get rid of those corners. And guess what? When I'm done, I will have a pretty good oval, right? Pretty good oval, except for that one little corner right there. And I'm going to start these on this side. So is Mrs. Walker at a point where I should start, oops, I didn't quite get that bold line, there we go, where I should start gluing, do you think? I feel like I should have one more, maybe there was only 3 layers there. Yeah, I want you to start gluing when you get maybe 5 or 10 pieces. Start your gluing, because you don't want to have all these loose pieces and it be time to clean up. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Wow, I have way more than 5 or 10 pieces. So I need to start gluing. And we're going to be using the regular glue bottles. And as you know, or hopefully you know, I guess in kindergarten and first grade, we mostly used this glue bottle, right? And this one with the red lid, we do not open. We just turn it upside down and push down, right? But if you're using the one with the orange lid, this one we do have to open. And we also have to close it when we're done. So open, I'm going to twist it to the right. This opens it. Do you see how there's a space between, oops, it's leaking out a little bit. Do you see how there's a space between this cap and this cap? There's a little space in there. When I close it, I'm going to turn it to the right. And it's dripping on my paper. I got to wipe that up. When I turn it to the right, you see how there's like no space now between the 2 caps, between the pointy cap and this one that goes around? That means it's closed. So when you're done, I want you to close it and wipe off the top, okay? But I'm going to open it right now because I need to use it. And when you're using this glue, you don't need a ton. You just need some around the outside edge. So I want you to think about that when you're gluing. You don't need a bunch of glue in here, and I shouldn't see big blobs of glue all over your paper. If you're doing this right, you're putting just the right amount. Okay, I'm going to put the head pretty high up because I know that I want to leave room for my legs, and if I do it too far down, what's going to happen? I'm not going to have room for my legs. Oh, I kind of like it like this better. I think I might do that. Yep. All right, so I changed my mind. As you're going, remember, you are the one that decides where everything goes and what he needs to look like. So you can change at any time. You can change your mind and go, you know what? I think I like this better. And that's part of designing, and we're being designers today, aren't we? This would be the job of an artist who is also an engineer. If you were in the real world getting a job, they like to hire artists for this because they need people who are creative, who can design things. And so we're being designers today. We're practicing our skills of designing using shapes, right? If you were in this as a job that you went to every day, you would have to think about the different shapes that would work the best for your robot. What kind of arms would work best for the job that your robot is doing. All right, I'm almost done here. I'm not going to have you watch me do this whole thing. I'm going to pause it, and then I will come back and talk to you about adding details. Okay, I am back, and I have the general shape of my robot, but I'm ready to add some more details. So Mrs. Bacher has a box of scraps that you can just pick some random colors out of that you think would look good to add a little more detail to your to your robot. So keep thinking about shapes, right? You could put a panel on the chest, maybe that's where all the buttons and controls are. If I'm cutting out a lot of circles and I want them to be all different colors, I could just layer these pieces of paper together, and I'm just going to cut out a smaller one here. Actually, let's see. I want it to be about this size. If you use a square to kind of get your sizes and then cut your circle out of that shape, it can help you a little bit. So I'm going to put some buttons on the front here where, you know, you can make him do different things. He needs some eyes. I could make his eyes be squares, right? I could just, or rectangles. I could just take this piece right here, put one there and one there. If you feel like you need, like I would want maybe some spots in the middle. Look, I've got some leftover yellow here. I could use some of my leftover pieces to make him look more like that. Just really anything's fine, right? You can do whatever you want. I could even add another piece. Let's see, I'm looking at this one. I could set that right in the center of there too. All right, when you're completely done though, double check to make sure that you have your name and class code on the back. And since we started with black paper, you need to make sure that you write it with a white crayon or a white colored pencil so that we can see it clearly. Do not turn this in without that. And since we have put glue on here, this needs to go on the drying rack. And you're going to have lots and lots of little pieces, so we want to make sure we clean up the art room. All of these little scraps go in the garbage can. If you have bigger pieces that you didn't use, put those back in the scrap bin. I'm going to say these are a little bit too small. I'm going to put those in the garbage. And put everything back where it goes. So remember, the glue needs to be closed. Mine's open. I can see because the two lids are not touching. I'm going to twist that and close it. And then be sure to wipe it off with your cleaning cloth at your table before you put that away. All right.